Welcome to the Live and Give Show with Dr. Jaime Gonzalez and Dr. Hoa and. Join us as we share our experiences and those of other experts in their fields who've discovered financial security while creating a pathway towards giving back to others.
Welcome, everyone, to the Live and Give Show. My name is Jaime Gonzalez, sitting right next to my beautiful lover, Hoa Win. And today's episode is fulfillment. And I guess we put a little title there. What brings you inner joy, inner happiness, whatever it is, whatever gives you fulfillment. Everyone's going to be fulfilled differently, as we all know. And we're going to talk about our fulfillment and how we've also helped other people as well with fulfillment topics. What do you think about the topic today?
No, I think it's a very important topic, right? Fulfillment, what really floats your boat and brings you inner joy, like authentic inner joy. And I think we have to intentionally spend time reviewing that because it's easy to forego the inner joy and what truly brings us happiness, inner happiness and joy when you get into the things, the to-do list, the things and the responsibilities, which yes, we all have, but to intentionally have time to see if the things you're doing is in alignment of what brings you inner joy. Because at the end of the day, I think it's really important. Why do we do the things that we do? Sometimes there's the social norm of like, hey, if I hit this milestone, I'll be happy. If I'll hit this next milestone, I hit happy. And then what happens? You hit that milestone and you feel a temporary feel of like, oh, wow, that felt good for a little bit, maybe a few hours, maybe a week, maybe a year. And then it wears out. And you're like, is that all there is to it? And so I think it's important that we continually review, and that what brings you inner joy is going to change through time. And I think that you have to like internally have checkpoints within yourself to be like, hey, this part of my life and this part of my journey, maybe this no longer fulfills my heart. Maybe this part of my chapter, all the things I've done to this point has served me really well. But maybe let's review and take inventory of like, at this part of my chapter, what's next? What really brings me true fulfillment? Right. And I think in exercise, and we'll have you guys do it towards the end, but we'll share a little bit more like the things that bring us joy, which is going to be different for Jaime. It's going to be different for me. It's going to be different for each one of you watching. And so to make sure that you don't use somebody else's example or what people consider as a social norm as your benchmark of what should bring you joy. And I think it's important that you were able to communicate that authentically to ourselves. And then if you have significant other, to be able to authentically communicate that to make sure that you're in alignment. And you may not be. What brings me joy might be different than what brings Jaime joy, which might be different than what brings you joy. And that's okay, but be authentic about it to yourself, right? So why don't you start us off with yourself right now, kind of looking back if you had to do 3 phases of your life, because that I'm pretty sure that fulfillment changed a bit over time for you. If you had to reflect back on your beginning journey of just academia and pursuing school, and then transitioning to being an entrepreneur, and then transitioning to now where we are, where you have more time, freedom to be able to do other things and be in a financial position to open up the opportunities to then what else fills and fulfills you. Why don't you take us a little bit beginning, mid, and now, and then moving forward where we are going?
And I think for me, the word fulfillment, I didn't really understand what that was until I started learning about self-development. So if you were to ask me in high school, what's going to fulfill you? I don't know. I don't even know what that means. I mean, I've never heard anyone in my family talk about fulfillment. We never sat down at the kitchen table and says, "What fulfills you?" They never asked me. And none of my friends, we talked about fulfillment growing up. So early on, I had no clue, right? And once you go to college, you start being more independent. And so you start to learn a little bit more about yourself, right? And once you graduate college, and then we're in our doctorate program, and you really know a lot about yourself at that point in time. It's like you got to put your shoes on and strap up your belt because they're not playing around, right? So, and but still at that time I didn't have any clue about fulfillment. It's like you got to go to class, you got to take your 23 hours per semester, and you got to
But
get out
would
of
your
school.
grades, or if you're winning a game, would those bring you momentary joy at the time?
And in college, well, in high school, yeah, it's I would get very good grades, of course, graduated top of my class. And in college I had really good grades, but it wasn't enough, right? And I was like, okay, well, let me step back a little bit. I tie in fulfillment with goals, right? And my goals at that time was not really to make good grades. It was like to get into school where I wanted to go, right? And so that was my goal. And once I got into the school I wanted, I guess you can say that was the joy, the inner joy that I first got. That was probably the first time I was proud of myself for getting into the only school in Texas that was offering this doctorate program at that time. And I was like, man, okay, so I got in. I had no plan B. It's like I'm getting in, and then let's see what happens. And
Because
then
that was a dream since the fourth grade for you.
yeah, since the fifth grade.
Fifth grade.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna be an eye doctor. I'm gonna figure it out. And this is my only choice. So, and I think that's probably why I didn't really get a sense of inner joy, I guess, what we were saying here, or fulfillment per se, up until I got into that school. And once I got in, and then you start learning a little bit more about yourself. And then initially, we talked about it in one of the episodes. I didn't take it seriously, right? It's like, oh, okay, I got in, and that was my goal. That's it. I reached my goal. But the goal was not big enough, right? Kind of what we've been saying. And the fulfillment was there. I reached it. I got my fulfillment, and I didn't have anything else, right? And then because I went to school, my first semester, I didn't take it seriously. I was going out all the time, 6 days a week. I didn't perform well in my courses. And then reality set in, right? And then that's whenever I had to like climb back up, right? So, but then you learn more about yourself because of those struggles.
Right.
And so we graduated together, of course, back then. And whenever we started practicing, then that's whenever you learn a little bit more about one another and about the person that you care so much for. And then you really know something about yourself then. So it's, for me, it was because we were raised very differently.
Very much so.
And we, unfortunately, we didn't have that taught to us. And because more than likely it was not taught to my parents. So they didn't have an opportunity to pass it down. But at the same time, I should have been learning it myself.
You weren't exposed to it, right? Like, how could you learn? It's different because we didn't have the pulse of the internet there, right? We didn't have a lot of access like that before. So it was a little different and harder, I would say.
I wasn't exposed to it because I guess I was not around the right people,
Mm-hmm.
and I was not around the people that were the really go-getters. And I think that I was, because I played sports pretty much all my life
Mm-hmm.
growing up, and it was all about sports. It wasn't about the academia or anything like that. We talk about fulfillment in sports too, and it's like, okay, well, some people wanted to go to Major League Baseball that were in my team, but I didn't want to do that,
Yeah.
so I didn't really connect so well with those type of people, so but we started to practice, and then we started to work on self-development. And I would probably say not that long ago, maybe 10, 12 years ago, that's whenever I really started to figure out what fulfillment really was.
Mm-hmm.
And then we purchased our practices. And so you help the people at the practice, but then you're really like, okay, well, I think I can do it on a larger scale, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm really enjoying helping people, and this can be how I can get fulfilled, you
Yeah.
know? So I love helping people pretty much whenever, I was younger. And but once you started to really help people one on one,
Mm-hmm.
and that's whenever like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to start doing this on a bigger scale. And then I have my wife here that really believes what I'm believing in. So, but I think 12 years ago, I think that's whenever I first started to really get down and deep and what really fulfillment meant to me. And now it's like you were saying, it's evolved, because I didn't, up until, I don't know how old I was back then, probably 30 or whatever. And then now it's like, okay, well, I know what fulfillment is. And this is how I was getting fulfilled 10 years ago. This is how I was getting fulfilled 5 years ago. Okay, so I've reached that. But now I have other fulfillments that
Mm-hmm.
I'm expanding. And I'm having you come along with me. I'm having Athena come with us now. So that's fulfilling me at the same time,
Right.
so, but for me, it's like inner peace.
Mm-hmm.
Is like inner peace for me is the best thing that can fulfill me. And that's by helping as many people as I can in as many countries as I can, partnering up with bigger people to help me
Right.
help others, and giving them as much value as possible so I can be in their circle, so I can help even more people.
Right.
So, and we attend a lot of charities, and we're part of a lot of charities, and that's one way that I get fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just continuing to multiply, and just all the great people that we're associated with now. It's like, man, that's fulfillment now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just want to take it to a bigger scale now, much bigger scale. And we talked about it in probably one of the episodes. It's like, I want to help 10 charities achieve and raise $2 million for each charity, right? And then that's going to multiply,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's what I'm kind of working on now. And we're partnering up with bigger people in the space of charity work. But yeah, that's
I
how
love
about how
that.
about you? How about you?
No,
What are
thank you for
you have
sharing
three
all the way back.
phases?
No, yeah, I've got multiple phases and different times, right? But you're right. And back growing up, we didn't have self development per se, or anyone in our circle that talked about fulfillment or inner joy, or that word never was even talked about, right? Unless you're in the self development space. Even people today, maybe watching in right now, you might be fulfillment. That can mean so many different things to different people. But growing up, like Jaime said, Jaime and I growing up so differently. When I was growing up, I remember because we moved around a lot, right?
Mhm.
But one of the things I really enjoyed was even though my parents were really busy, I enjoyed the time being with them, even though they were busy. But because I was part of the family business, I at least had time with them, right? So it wasn't that they were away from work 80, 100 hours. I was actually with them. Aside from school, I was always with them, right?
Mhm.
Until my dad passed away. But I cherished that time so much because even though I was in the kitchen with my mom or whatever, I mean, we were always together every weekend, every day after school. I was cooking and learning and just watching her and the strong woman that she was. And what really brought me joy, that big milestone, when you talk about different milestones, and academia was one of my strengths. And I so wanted to do well in school. And I remember my first milestone when I became valedictorian. That was such a big achievement for me. And I remember when I was making my speech, and I did my speech because my mom didn't speak English. My class had over 650 people, and I have a huge fear of public speaking. But that was my very first public speaking ever engagement. And I had to do it in front of God knows how many people. This was recorded. And I did it not only in English, I did it in Vietnamese as well. And that was a big milestone. And my mom, through all these years, had never had the opportunity to go to school with me because she was always working. It was the first time she ever was in my school. And it was so funny because she was like, she didn't even know that I was valedictorian because she had never been to my class or school. And I would sign all my report cards. She had no idea what an A, B, C, D, or F meant, you know? So I would sign my own report cards. She never went to my school and she didn't really know how I did academically. And then when I told her to come for my graduation, she didn't even know what a valedictorian meant, right? Until some people were telling her, like, oh, your daughter does really well in school. But I remember making that speech and I was just so proud. And it wasn't even at that moment, it wasn't even a sense of pride. I was so happy for myself that yes, I achieved this big milestone. But more than all, all the hard work that my mom had put in, my dad had put in for us to come to America. And that was the first big milestone that I was so proud of, to step on stage and to be able to represent and speak to Vietnamese to my mom. Oh my gosh, she was crying, right? And it was hard because she's one that never says she's proud, right? And till that day, she never still verbally said it, right? But just to see her expression and her emotion crying while I'm making my speech, I knew internally she was proud of me, but she was always very hard on me. She was super strict. She was always focused on the things that I should do better, right? But that was the upbringing. But I realized at the core of the heart, my mom and dad are extremely, extremely authentic, good people. And seeing the philanthropy work of what they did, and they brought so many random people home who have stolen from us, who betrayed them. And I saw this at a young age, and I paid attention. But I realized my mom, she had gone through so much after my dad had passed away, but she always smiles. You know, she's one of those people who has this loud laugh. And when people see me and they kind of I have this distinguished laugh about me, right? And my mom does too. She has this loud outer laugh. But some of the external people who have this loud laugh suffer some of the most intense pain internally. And I see that. I see that through my mom. And I'm like, man, I'm like that. It's because we've been through a lot of internal pain that this external laughter is what pulls us through.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but it's joy that you find, like, as my journey evolved, I'm like, wow, what are things that truly bring me happiness? Yes, my milestones in academia and then optometry school, I didn't have a backup plan either. And that was another big milestone when you kind of talk into like accolades, being able to go to optometry school. I mean, to become a doctor, I was going to be the first doctor in my family, right? I had no backup plan. I applied to University of Houston, College of Optometry. It was the closest one to New Orleans. At this point, my mom really didn't want me to leave home. It was always my mom and I, super close. And I was like, Mom, the closest optometry school is going to be Houston. I'm going to apply to that one. But the chances of me getting in are low, right? Because there's a lot of competition for 100 seats. And when I applied,
And that was the only one
that
in
was
Texas.
the only one in Texas. And so I remember getting the letter that I was accepted into U of H. And I remember my mom again crying. My mom doesn't cry a whole lot, right? My mom's usually very stern. She's a strong person. She's a suck it up kind of gal. Like, suck it up, move it on, right? I've been through war. I've been through all the kind of crap. Like, you suck it up and you move on kind of mentality, right?
I've been through war, been through the boat and through the refugee camp.
Right? You got nothing to complain about. Right? But that was a big milestone for me. But I built that character through the years because I'm like, man, I got to suck it up. I got to suck it up. Anything that is internally challenging, I have to suck that baby up because I was like, I have nothing to complain about, right?
Mhm.
But that also, when you talk about fulfillment and achievement, it can be a dangerous space because being an overachiever, and there's a level of expectation that you then hold upon yourself, but then not just that, everybody around you who looks up to you
Mhm.
as the role model. I was the role model for my family. Until this day, it's a big responsibility. It was a big weight on my shoulder. And that's why when I didn't do well in optometry school that year, I was so ashamed and it was so hard for me, right? But that pivotal year, like I said, helped me become so much stronger and realize, like, hey, I'm more than that, right? And when you talk about fulfillment, because I was basing how I valued myself based on my achievements. And when I didn't achieve to the level that I expected, then I valued myself less. And that was a very dangerous place to be. And I know a lot of people who are high achievers weigh themselves, like I became my worst critic, right? Even though I had all these other things that I knew I achieved well, that thing alone kind of spiraled in my mind. But what brings me joy at that point was like I got out of that. I continued. And I tell you this, and I've mentioned it throughout time, that you were the next phase of my big milestone because up to that point, I had been in an unhealthy relationship, right? And so that was another milestone of experiencing someone who was very open with their emotion, open with expression of affection, holding hands, hugging, kissing, telling me how beautiful I was, telling me how proud you were of me. I mean, those are words I've never heard. Those were things I wasn't accustomed to. Those were things I didn't believe about myself at the moment.
And
right?
yeah, and you tell me about it, and because a lot of the Vietnamese culture is just like that. And whenever we were growing up, it was you're loving, you're kissing, you're hugging, you're proud of this and that. But whenever you told me that about the Vietnamese culture, that a lot of Vietnamese don't do that, I was like, wow, how, and very, very, I mean, everyone's pretty smart, but why is it that the Vietnamese culture, a lot of the Asians cultures
Still
are
to this day.
are the same way? And I'm very surprised that they still become very successful, even though
Yeah.
that I mean that holds
It's a
true.
level of expectation. It's almost
Mm.
like, and it makes it even harder when your parents come from a generation of immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like, man, you feel there's a sense of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
There is a true sense of pressure to, man, we are in the land of opportunity. And my parents, if they were able to achieve all of this and sacrifice all of this, and if I don't do something with my life that's worth their sacrifice, you almost feel guilty.
Mm-hmm.
But then to have fulfillment where it is for you and not for anybody else. And that was one of the things I realized was I always wanted to make sure that my mom was proud of me. Before I met Jaime, my mom is my rock, right? And everything I did, I was like, man, I want to retire my mom. She's worked so hard. She lived such a hard life. She sacrificed and been through so much to make sure that she took care of us and did well, right? And she was always our support base. Even if she didn't show the public affection and the things that I wanted and I craved from her, but I knew deep down inside I wouldn't have been able to do all this and be who I am if it wasn't for the strength of my mom holding the family together. And so when I met Jaime and for the first time I felt and experienced true love, that was a sense of fulfillment for me. And I was like, wow, my heart, like I actually felt like I loved somebody that it wasn't just someone that I wanted to be with someone that I felt like I couldn't live without, that I've met my match, you know.
Mm.
And when we came together, we both came from very humble beginnings. And what I saw in you was that sense of authenticity, that you just were not trying to sweet talk me. You were always the way you were. You weren't scared to voice your opinion, to say it like it was. And I really respected that. I respected that about you. You didn't try to sugarcoat things. You were, this is how it is. This is who I am, right?
Mhm.
And these are my dreams. These are my goals. And I really respected that, right? And as we move along in our journey of fulfillment, inner peace became something that it's always been one of those top things for me is inner peace. And I focus at a young age. I've managed my emotions and a lot of the internal, when you talk about overcoming adversities and pain, and I only touch upon it very surface level of things from my childhood, but a lot of these things carry on to your adulthood, right? But because of my coping mechanisms and being able to find inner peace where I create la la land for myself, it's helped me.
Mm.
So it's a coping mechanism. I'm not just in Lala as an adult. I've done this as a child. When people are like, I was bullied when I was younger. I was like, I've gone through all sorts of things and abuse and things, right? But when I'm in my Lala land, nobody can touch me. Nobody can phase me, right? Unless that's my space. That's my inner peace. And when people are like, you don't really seem to stress about a lot of stuff, and I'm like, I got a lot of things going on. I got 10 million things I can and should be stressed about. I choose not to be. And I've trained through my coping mechanism as a young child to go to my place of Lala, my inner happy space where nobody can touch me, where it's me. This is my time. This is my space. And I can transform myself away from reality to go into Lala land. If I can teach you guys this, I mean,
Oh yeah, you gotta share with them a little bit in one of the future episodes.
future episode, how to get to La La Land, right? But it's a little bit of a break from reality, right? But you create it. And so whatever's happening, I could have 10 million things. I remember when Jaime goes, we're getting married. And you don't like, nothing phases you. Like you don't seem to be stressed. You don't seem to be worried. I'm like, all I got to do is show up and say yes, right? I mean, you've got it all planned out, right? I'm just showing up to say yes. Why would I be stressed, right? But when we talk about inner joy, what brings you inner joy and those things, inner peace is a big one for me. Yes, goals. I'm very goal oriented, and I think you almost have to be. So you have to have a roadmap. We talk about a blueprint and goal setting, long-term vision, and then taking action steps and hitting those milestones. That brings me fulfillment. When I write things on napkins, I write them on napkins because I manifest and intentionalize it. That all my focus, my Lala, my little space that I'm focused, it's very intentional. And yes, I'm not the most organized person, but shoot, when I say I'm laser focused on something, trust me, it will get done.
Mhm.
Right? And that's all I focus on. Because if you stray too many things, because there are so many ways that your energy and time can be sucked and your focus can be sucked away. And I already know I'm not as organized. And so when I am organized, I focus on just the little things, then maybe the 1 or 2% that I just want to focus my energy. And I let everybody else focus on the other things. And that's why Jaime calls me the MD, the master delegator, because I will hire, delegate, train, partner, whatever I need to do to take my focus and energy on people that can execute all the other missing pieces that need to move the needle forward. And I've become really good at that. But that's how I've been able to channel my unique superpower to all I want to do that I'm good at, that brings me joy, and that moves the needle forward. And I think that's a strategy that I've been able to, fortunately, be able to, with your help, because you complement the things that I don't do. Like you and Maria pick up on a lot of things on the team, as Alma and everyone in our practices, right? And our doctors, like everybody has their piece of what they need to do to move the whole picture forward. But all I do is I focus on my little piece. I don't focus on what you're doing. I don't focus on what Maria's doing. I don't focus what Alma's doing on the practices. I focus on my little piece. If I'm going to go and speak, all I'm focused on is, guess what? What I'm going to speak. And if I'm going to go connect with 2 or 3 people, my energy, all I'm focused on is those 2 or 3 people that I want to interconnect with. That's my super channel power. And trust me, it gets done. Right? I come with intention. I come with planned intention, and I leave with it. That's because if you just go to random things with no intention of the result you want to get out prior, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your energy. But that brings me joy when I come back and I feel so like, wow, I met new people. Great. I came with the intention of what I wanted to get done and I got it done. That brings me fulfillment. I feel proud of that. I feel proud of myself for doing that, making strong connections that I wanted to have. Right. And then I move those forward. But I think that's important to have very, very internalized channeling of focus and what makes you happy doing it and what you're actually really good at. Now, the philanthropy piece of what we'll be able to do to be able to collaborate has been another level of very much inner joy, right? Being able to give back to others on a larger scale, whether it's us traveling to do the actual work. But doing one by ourselves is a whole nother story than being able to collaborate and relay causes and the charities that we're able to be so passionate involved in. We can now also connect with other leaders and also people who want to be part of that mission. But if you don't tell people, you don't share your message for people who want to be a part of that journey with you, how do you get collaboration and a ripple effect of more help? You and I can only have so much financial and time to be able to go and help. Now, if we can have so many other people create a ripple effect and then share and do our work of philanthropy, whether it's money, whether it's time, whether it's knowledge, whatever it is, right? We can do it on such a larger scale. And that's why I found the speaking platform to be able to impact people on a heart level, right? On a heart level to touch people's hearts, to then whatever your message is and what change we want, we're able to implement change. I remember when I was sitting and watching Jaime, we partnered with Nancy Lieberman, and she does a lot with basketball courts and giving back to the youth, something that we're very passionate about. And we talk about, oh, we wish this, we wish that. We wish when we were younger, we had somebody as a mentor to have financial literacy and self-development and talk about these things. Well, instead of just talking about, I wish, we want to partner with people who are making those changes, who are doing those. And so I was so proud of Jaime when he went to a school. We went to one of the high schools, and I was just sitting in the crowd, mixed in with the students, and it's from 9th to 12th grade. And we're all in the auditorium, and Jaime's on stage talking with Nancy Lieberman, sharing their journey and giving them advice, giving these students in high school and sharing his upcoming. It was predominantly Hispanic in that school. And for them to see someone like Jaime, right, Hispanic, who came and grew up from here in Irving and South Irving, and hearing his background and his upbringing, and then him sharing all the nuggets and the journey where he's been and talking about topics that are raw and real, that is something I was so proud. And everybody, like I was hearing the kids and how they came over. So many of them thanked me for taking the time that we would come out and talk to them. And then everybody was swarming Jaime, but even me just sitting and kind of hiding on the side there, a lot of them knew that, I mean, I was his wife, right? So they came over and they just hugged me and they shook our hands and they just said, "We know you don't have to be here, but for you to take the time to just want to give and mentor and get talk to us and provide us guidance, like we really appreciate that, right?" And we wish we had someone to do that. And instead of just saying, "Well, I wish someone would do that," we're going to go out and partner with people who are doing that.
And I think that's probably why we like to partner up with charities that involve children, and that's why we know and understand, if we know this early on, the chances of you being successful, a better human, a happier person are much greater if you learn some of these basic human
Yeah.
needs early on. So it was, yeah, and that's why we educate a lot of little kids, even like family members that we speak to. And because right now, that's what fulfills us, that's our passion. If you can change someone's thinking early on, they could take it to a whole new
Oh, yeah.
level. They can be so much better than us. And, or we can even partner up with them so we can be together as a group, helping and having that ripple effect. And then that's something that they can be fulfilled with at the same
Mhm.
time, right? So, but, and that's what our future vision looks like. It's setting up some of these kids educational centers, financial literacy centers for kids, so they can ask us questions or have a graduate from a financial literacy center. But that means something. And I know school is there to teach the basic things, but we need a lot more than school. We need so much more human affection and touch and street smarts. We like to talk about street smarts, but and that's stuff that we need early on. We want kids to have someone they can look up to, someone that was just like them whenever they were younger, someone that looks like them, because that does matter. And if I had someone coming to my school and say, "Whoa, he's here now, and but he was here before, and he grew up around here." Oh my gosh, the world of opportunity opens up immediately,
Mhm.
immediately in like 1 hour. So, and that's why we want to, and that's part of the reason that we're doing this podcast. And that's part of my goals, to kind of educate a lot of people that are watching what we've learned through these very, very powerful masterminds, but also our friends, super successful people, some of the things that have really worked for us, some of the things that have not worked for us. I was saying, if we can have conferences of stuff that hasn't worked, I think that would be even more powerful than having people go up on stage and, "I'm successful and I've closed so many deals and all this." Okay, well, tell me the stuff that was not successful. That will be more helpful for me. And so I don't go through that. And yeah, I'm going to have bumps on the road, but I want to avoid some of the bumps that they went through. And,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean, just kind of helping.
And
So,
I think helping others is definitely a pillar of fulfillment and inner joy for both of us authentically, right? Whether it's on a large scale and even one on one sometimes. And it could be anybody. It doesn't have to be out in another country or something massive like that. Just even sometimes patient care one on one, right? I remember the first time when you diagnosed a little girl with a brain tumor and she had surgery and you saved her life. And I remember you coming home from work that day and you cried and you were so emotional and you told me the story about her and what you found. But that will live in your heart forever.
mhm,
Those moments that you were responsible for saving someone else's
mm,
life. I mean, that fulfills your heart in a way that no amount of money can do.
Mhm.
And it's different people throughout my life in different moments that bring me such joy that if I had to close my eyes and just have a camera flash of like pictures that come in my mind of moments before I die, of the things that I truly would remember that touched my heart, those are the moments I want to create, right? Those are the moments. I'm not going to remember a lot of things, but I know core moments that really mattered. And I want to create more of those moments that matter, right?
No, I was just thinking as you were speaking, is because fulfillment and gratitude and accomplishments, and that goes along with, okay, if I die today, was that enough? Is that enough to go to heaven? Did I do enough for this world? Right. And I think that's why we wrote our eulogy, right?
Mhm.
Just kind of thinking about, okay, have I done enough in this world to go on to the next phase and live an eternal life of happiness and inner peace?
That's a powerful exercise, writing out your own eulogy. And
Homework time. So, Hua, explain the homework.
so the writing out your eulogy is really writing out, and I encourage you to write it from the perspective of yourself. Writing it out where if you were to write your own eulogy, what you wanted to actually be, what would you want to be remembered for? What did you achieve? What impact did you create? And from all, whether it's your personal, whether it's your career, whatever it is that you want to be known for. And if someone was reading your eulogy and you were sitting front row watching it, what would you want it to say? And how does it make you feel? And would you have any regrets? If you were to already have, like, if today was your last day and you wrote that eulogy and somebody was reading it, would you be proud of that? Is that the legacy you want to be left behind that touches other people's heart? Right. And so when Jaime says, was that enough? Right. And so I encourage you, if you're like, maybe I need to really change, maybe these are the things I've always wanted to do, but I've waited because it's not because of fear, because of maybe I'm scared to fail, or I haven't really lived out my dream because of this or that, or you think you have a lot of time left. So I encourage you to put the exercise because it gives you a sense of finite time that maybe you don't have all the time. We don't know when our last day is. And so when you talk about live fully, live in the full, be fully present, live each day like it's your last. When you truly write out your eulogy and you see it and you spend time on it and read it, and if you don't like the eulogy as it is currently, what are things you can do that now changes? And it may be a total shift of your life in the next transition of your chapter of what you want to do, because now you're going to base what you do and who you are off of that eulogy. Are you in alignment with that? And that's such a powerful exercise. I've saved it. I've written it. I've took a picture of it. It's on my phone and I go back and I read it. And I have it. I actually have not shared my eulogy with Jaime. I have not read his eulogy. He actually has not read my eulogy. So after this episode, we're going to go read each other's eulogy.
That it's been like what, 2 years since we wrote it. Yeah, that's a cool thing that you bring up about reading each other's. It's probably right there. Those, you see all those books right there's probably under there.
No, I took a picture of it and put it on my phone.
Oh,
I
okay.
have my eulogy on the pulse of my hand.
Okay. I might have to look for mine. It's probably in.
But it's a very powerful exercise because when you think about what if today was my last day? Have I lived it out, right? And the last thing I want is I don't want to die with any regrets. If I want to pursue something, I'm going to pursue it. If I fail it 10 times, that's okay. All out. If I want to travel somewhere, I'm going to travel there. If I want to meet somebody, I'm going to go meet that person. If I want to say something to somebody, I'm going to say it. Because if I die, I don't want to regret that I didn't do it already.
Mhm.
And writing that eulogy put that in perspective for me.
Do you think becoming a speaker has helped you fulfill some of your goals or kind of add on to your
Oh.
eulogy?
Yeah. And that was a big platform for me, that my speaking was a way for me to connect to millions and millions of more people on a larger international scale. And that is something that we went to a retreat in the British Virgin Islands. And remember the couple that came, and she never knew who I was. She doesn't know anything about Jaime or myself. And she just feels energy, right? And they're both pastors. And then she came up to me, and do you remember what she said? And said something, she goes, there's something really unique about you. You are really going to change people around the world. And you have this passion to help younger people. And you want to build schools, or you want to build all these things in different countries. And I'm like, how does she know this stuff? And she goes, you have that unique gift. And I know that's what you're going to do. And I was just like, she was she was pouring life into me. It's something I wanted to do, right? And I was doing, and I was speaking. And as I use my platform to speak, and I see it come to fruition, and it has definitely fulfilled my heart.
Hmm.
And I think that was a big pillar of why I have a passion to speak. And it was something that you saw in me before anybody even else, before I even met Bill Walsh. You told me, even though you saw me like terrified for days, not being able to sleep. And I'm like, how can I speak when I'm terrified to speak? I would get you nervous. But you saw and believed something in me that I didn't believe in myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I had affirmation from Bill, and then I had it from Lee Steinberg, and then I had it from her, Chansey, and I just kept
Sharon Lecter.
Huh? And Sharon Lecter. Like I kept hearing people who saw something in me, that believed in me, and they're like, no, you have a gift.
And this was early on whenever
Right.
they were saying that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what are y'all talking about? Like, I have a fear of, like, that's the last thing that's on my list of things I'll be doing in my lifetime. But it's definitely something that's truly fulfilled my heart. I can connect to people on a much larger scale. And whatever message and any experiences that I can share with the world has really touched my heart on a larger scale. So yes, I would definitely agree. Speaking has been definitely a big layer of fulfillment for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard sometimes when you talk about traveling and speaking, and I'm at different things, and I'm away from Athena, and I'm away from you sometimes, right? But then I always remember that it is for a bigger cause. It's in alignment with my eulogy. It's in alignment with my life goals and our mission as a family. And Athena's so proud when I come home, and you're so proud. And so I have to always remember these inner voices that want to come back up and be like, oh, is this, are you sure you want to be doing this? Are you sure this is how you want to spend your time? But I know every time I step on that stage, every time I get to pick up that mic, every time I get to connect to multiple people, the feedback I get, and that inner core, when you talk about that feeling in your heart, that yeah, this is it. I get it every single time.
That inner joy.
That inner joy. I get it every single time I step on that stage. And I was like, I don't know what this means. I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I don't know if this is the best use of my time, but this brings me joy.
Mm-hmm.
And when people are like, well, you don't get a dime for it, I don't even care if I didn't get a dime for it. You know? And Gary, if you're watching this.
But that was back then.
That was back then.
That was long.
But that was a
while
long
ago.
time ago. I know that was a while ago, right? And of course, that has to change, right? That had to change for me to continue. But at the beginning, I was like, no, it just brings me joy. I just want to do it because I feel like I want to do it, right? But so many people came and seeked out, and they're like, I would love for you to come speak to my audience. I would love for you to share this. And because I talk on so many different topics, right? Because of my different background and different adversities and the different strategies we've been able to utilize to move the needle forward. So whether it's mindset, whether it's leadership, whether it's overcoming adversity, whether it's real estate specific, whether it's philanthropy work, whether it's leveraging the platform of speaking to grow personally and professionally, it's just there's so many ways that I found that it's not, you don't have to pigeonhole yourself into one topic or one area or one identity. And I didn't like it when people say, pick one thing and that's your thing. I'm like, well, I can't pigeonhole myself into just one thing. I just love people. I love impact. I want to do things that create impact. And all the things we're doing fit into the box of creating impact.
Mhm.
Right?
That's right.
And so I think that's why I was like, no, I don't want to pick one thing. It all is in alignment of what we're doing. It all still moves the needle forward to create the impact and touch lives that we are achieving. Right? And so I don't think you only have to have one vehicle to do it. Would you agree with that?
I think if you have multiple vehicles, you're being even more conservative on what you want to accomplish, and whether it's monetary or gaining more knowledge on different topics and things like that. Because if you start speaking on one topic, but then you want to venture out to a different topic, then you have to learn about that topic. You have to interview other people. You have to be within that set subject, right? I think that makes you grow so much faster, exponentially, because you don't pigeonhole yourself and just speaking about real estate, right? So there are a lot of speakers in real estate, but what else can you offer besides real estate, right? What else can you offer besides being an eye doctor? What else can you offer besides having charity connections? What else can you offer besides? So stuff like that, self development, stuff like we want it all, right? We want all of Hua. No,
And all of
and that's
Jaime, right?
no, and that's what people are looking for. Like, yeah, they want it fast, with their fingers, and now it's you can get knowledge so quickly by just watching videos, and for people that they love, and you can learn so much. I mean, in 5 minutes, it's incredible. I mean, I learn whenever I'm watching or listening to podcasts, and now I put it in fast mode so I can learn even faster. I need knowledge. I need knowledge so I can exponentially grow in that
Right.
particular subject, right? So,
But one of the other things we talk about Athena a lot, our ninja. But being a mom, I say I wear a lot of different hats. But I honestly would say being a mom has been so fulfilling for me. It's been one of the blessed. I remember the day that she was born. That's a moment I'll never forget. Right? That day lives vividly in my mind. Just like the day that we got married, I will always vividly remember that, right? The emotion that you feel at that moment, just like becoming a mom, and especially because the struggle of how long it took to become a mom and to continue seeing her grow. And she's just so kind and she's very thoughtful and compassionate and adventurous. And I was like, I'm so proud. I was like, I always tell Jaime, if we did nothing right, I know we did one thing right. We did a good job raising Athena.
we're good.
Right? But she's our legacy, right? She's part of us, an extension of us that she's going to do her own thing. We don't put expectations upon her, but just to see and live and for her to be a part of that journey with us. And kids watch you all the time. And I know that. And I know a lot of the thoughtfulness and things, it's she models, kids model us, right? All the time. They pay attention so much. And so that's something that fulfills me as I see her. We used to call her Haribo. Like when I saw the ultrasound of she was a little gummy bear in my belly, and like look at her now and how she's coming a little mini adult. And I'm so proud. I was like just seeing her journey, and as we're growing. But I was like, man, of all the things I'm so proud of, I'm like, man, we did good. We did good with her, And I know there's a lot of phases, and people are like, oh, just wait. They are sweet now, but wait till they get. And when that time comes, that'll come. We do the best that we can, and I'm pretty sure she'll go through her phases, and we'll have challenges along the way, no doubt about it, right? And the same token as my fulfillment journey, as I'm helping others, and like I said, when you're always focusing on others, one of the pillars that I've always been very intentional about, especially the past 10 to 12 years, when you talk about self-development, and I've really only executed it well more so the past few years, more recently, is working on my own self-love. And that's been a big part because I've always been really good naturally. I've been good about taking care of others around me, right? And doing well for others. And naturally, that comes naturally for me. But to take time to be like, hey, I deserve this. Take time for me time to self-love and like build my own self-confidence. And speaking has been a platform to help me build self-love and self-confidence. But it took time because I was like, I don't know, who am I to go do something like that? Who wants to listen to me? I didn't even share my story until just a few years ago. I was very private. Like I didn't want anybody to know my business, to know my background. I'm like, nobody cares. I don't want to share anything about me. Nobody needs to come into my world. But that was just my thought. It was a survival mechanism. It's always been a protection mechanism for me, that I lived in my inner world, and very limited people were allowed in that world because I didn't want them to break my trust, because I saw that over and over and over before, and I didn't want that. And so I was very selective who I was ever going to let into my world, and even my past. And even Jaime being 19 years with me, he would find a little bit of something new about me. I would disclose a little bit deeper layer of me. But those are just mechanisms for me to be able to cope and move forward. And I've been able to thrive, not just survive, but I've been a victor through a lot of these. And these are things I didn't want to rehash. But what I found is, as I rehashed and was more vulnerable, it was a healing mechanism for me. It was things that I've suppressed, that I've learned to just like hurdle through and be like, deal with it, right? And I've suppressed it in my subconscious through many years. And as I've learned to share my story, share some of the adversities, be more vulnerable in private groups, and select people that I really trusted to open up some of the hurt and pain, it started a healing process for me. Right. And I think that's the power of having a safe space. But you do have to be careful on who you share your heart and your trust with. Right. But I no longer fear the fear of someone breaking my trust. I just put it out there now. I just put it out there, and I just have faith that if the trust gets broken, it's okay. That person wasn't meant to be part of my life. Right. And the right ones will be in my world. And the ones out there are going to be some good ones, there are going to be some bad ones, and that's okay. I can't worry about that. I can't have the fear of having someone hurt me or doing me wrong. We've been done wrong so many times, personally and professionally. And you know what? We wrote out why we're thankful to those people. We actually did an exercise of, well, if they didn't do this and we didn't have to go through all those challenges, we wouldn't have been here. It was all a blessing in disguise. So we thank them. Not only do we forgive them, we thank them, right? For the wrong that they've done us. But that's okay. Because, whatever reason. But self-love is a big one I encourage. It's not something we talk about enough. Self-love, self-care, self-confidence. Because I always say now, the bullseye, work on the inner core, work on yourself first. It's not being selfish, it's necessary. And the younger you can learn to build on self-love and self-development, and to do it with our children, where they know that their emotions matter, that they can voice those things, that they need to take care of themselves. I don't want Athena ever doing something that's just to please us. And I had to draw boundaries around my loved ones, right? To say like, hey, I know they love me, but maybe they don't support my decisions. And that's okay. I'm going to surround myself around people who do support my decisions, or who are kind of boosting my confidence to be like, yeah, you're doing the right thing, right? And I still love the people who know they just mean the best, but because they're putting their fears upon me, right? They just want to protect me because they've heard all these other things that this can go wrong. This person has done, that person has that. And I had to draw boundaries and change that conversation and change the topic so that I'm not going to put all of that in my subconscious. And I'm going to find people and I'm going to find ecosystems that support and have more elevation of growth in their mindset so that I can continue growing our own mindset and our beliefs and it's reaffirmation of like, yeah, we're moving along on the right journey. We're hanging around people who are like in that growth and abundance mindset, who keep moving the needle forward, who don't just say it, they're living it, they're doing it, right? And that's why I've enjoyed getting out there to different ecosystems. And that's why we've been able to meet so many great people and thinking, wow, that it's possible. It is possible that every time we think back, we're like, man, we were still thinking too small, right? And that we can achieve so much more in our lifetime. And every single day that we have a platform to be able to do that and to be able to collaborate with somebody else to move the needle forward faster or more impactful on a larger tangent, we want to do that if it's in alignment with good people, right? And so I think that's really the way that I truly am so fulfilled at this point. And I always tell Jaime, if I don't wake up tomorrow, don't cry, celebrate my life. I've lived a freaking good life. I am so proud and happy. And I have so much joy right now, purely that if I die tonight, that I'm good. Like I say that jokingly, but I'm for real. So if you guys are ever watching this and going back to this episode, do not cry for me. Celebrate my life. But trust me, we have more to go, right?
Please don't die tomorrow. I gotta go to Vietnam for some charity work.
But I'm just
So let's hit one last topic.
okay.
And so for the people that don't know what fulfillment is, or they're having difficulty with fulfillment, what advice would you give them? Maybe guide them, or some of the things that you can help them with, so they can maybe do the homework that we set out for them.
It's a little bit of a harder. I've done a few very in-depth retreats where I think it let me reflect, where I had to get away physically from my normal setting. And I remember a time where I was getting a little bit, we were getting really, our businesses were growing and we had exponential growth. But then there was a part of my journey where I had to do a check-in, a self-check-in to be like, are we on the right path? And so I don't remember if you remember, I left to Sedona for 3 days by myself, right? And I went to a place called Mago. It's in Sedona, Mago Retreat. And it's called Finding Your True Self. And for 3 days, no internet, no connection, no talking to anybody. I was fully 3 days, fully immersed in this with 2 masters, one from Korea and one from Japan. And really trying, and they did different exercises and different things, and we teamed up and partnered. And it's hard to describe the exercise because it was such an immersion away from my normal setting, and it's changing the environment. And so I find that to be a very effective. Now, you don't have to go to Sedona, you don't have to go to Mago Retreat, but I encourage you, if you could even spend 1 or 2 days and go somewhere by yourself, away from your normal environment. And that time is for self-reflection, full immersion. You're going to do no internet, no emails, no work. It sounds crazy, but
Wow.
it's a full immersion of like really releasing, and we meditated, we exercised together, I hiked, I wrote, journaled. And I let everything in my emotions and my mind and feelings come to paper. And then I spent so much time with nature. I spent 2 full days with just nature. No technology, just nature. And all I asked was, what do you really want? What do you really want, Hoa? What do you really want? And after those 3 days, and we were doing this exercise, we were meditating, and it felt like for me, 5 minutes, I was in that deep space for 3 hours, not realizing I was in it for 3 hours.
Mhm.
And what I really wanted was inner peace and love. That's what I really wanted, right? And so when I'm thinking about, okay, the things that bring me, I know when I do things and it touches my heart, I'm like, yes, that's what I want. Yes, that's what I really want. Not for the marketing, not for the title, but does it touch my heart in an authentic, like, does it bring me to tears? Does it truly touch my heart? That's the emotion I want, right? And so Jaime knows, like, even though people know me as the real estate and all of that, I don't even know how much we have in our bank account. I don't even have no idea, right? On, like, honestly, I did budgeting because
I do.
have to.
I do.
I know Jaime does, but I was really good with numbers. I've always been very good with numbers because I've always had to be with
Mhm.
finances and budgeting and underwriting. Like, I am extremely good with numbers, but that's not my driver.
Mhm.
And that being with me,
Yep.
I have no idea. I don't care. Money is really not my driver. But the reason why we build and talk about long-term generational wealth, because that helps fuel the bigger mission of what does truly fulfill us.
Mhm.
Right. And so it all ties in. But I was like, yeah, I want to have that inner peace and love. And when I came back and I was so fueled up, I'm like, I'm ready to rock and roll. Right.
Yep. Move out the way. I'm coming.
Because the mission of what we were doing was so much bigger, right? And because what we do does impact and can create so much change and true change for people in every pillar. I don't take for granted anything we do in our practices, in our real estate businesses, in our family life, in Athena being a parent, like every touch point in every person, you can make a big difference. Like, I went to Savannah, Georgia to do a speaking engagement. And the young man at the counter, he was standing next, he was waiting for me to check in so he can help me carry my bag to my hotel room. And I have this thing with energy and people. I don't know what it is, but immediately I feel a connection with somebody. And I felt this connection with this young man. And I looked at him and I said, you are such a special person. You have a very unique gift. I can already tell you have a story. And I don't know what it is, but I just feel you're a beautiful soul. And I told him that. And he wanted to cry, right? And then he started sharing. He was a basketball player, he's a musician. His brother had just passed, his sister had passed. He was going through a lot of turmoil and he wanted to transition his next phase. And he was getting out of a dark phase and he was being at the hotel as a temporary position to get his life back together as he's getting his life together and move to Charleston as he's a new artist and he's sharing his music and his backstory and everything with me, right? And I knew it was just something special about his soul. And he was so thankful. And he put this new, and all of a sudden I saw this light in him just glow. And the next morning, as I saw him and I came down and I was with my two friends, Tan and Katie were with me, and he came over and he just ran over and he hugged me as tight as he could be. And they were just like, whoa, why is this guy so happy to see you? Right. But the words, you don't realize how powerful your words can be. Right. And I felt and knew something was special about him. And I could feel something about it. But those words alone, I can guarantee you is going to change where he was in that point of time. Right. And he was so grateful. And somebody from the external and they're like, how long have you known him? I was like, I met him yesterday. But the energy and the connection that they felt and they saw, they were just like at awe. They were just like, wow. But every time that he saw me around the hotel, and you could see he was smiling big and his energy and his eyes lit up. And he just kept saying, "Thank you so much. Thank you so much." Right. And so I encourage you, when you write down what really fulfills your heart, and if you see something special in someone, please tell them, please share that. You don't realize that one person, it doesn't even have to be on a million large scale. You can realize that one person, if you change their life, they can create a ripple effect of millions because of what you said and what you did for that moment. It doesn't take a lot to create massive impact. So I encourage you to slow down and just look at people in their eyes, feel their energy. And if you feel a beautiful soul, you will know a beautiful soul. You will feel authenticity. You can't fake authenticity.
And maybe tell them.
And tell them, and tell them. Because sometimes it took people who saw things in me and their words to give me that boost of confidence. And if I go and change millions of other people, I go back and thank every single person who came and took the time to tell me, that believed in me when I didn't believe in myself just yet, and saw a unique gift and power in me that now I can go share that with the world. But I go back and I reflect on every single person there, that they took the time and the energy to be like, "Hey, you have something special. You go and spread your message. You have a special way connecting with people," right? And so I encourage you to do that. But immerse yourself. If you can just take, even if you don't have 2 days to be away from your busy life, even just one day, it's a trip that can change your life, your whole trajectory. If you can self reflect and do that even once a year, if you have the energy and ability to do that. And if you can't go away far, just go away from your house somewhere that's in nature, 1 or 2 days, and immerse yourself away from everything and just explain to everybody that you're out of the loop. You cannot be in touch for 2 days. And I tell you, that self reflection is going to really bring back. And when you say why, your why, and you talk about all the layers of your why, it's so much deeper than when you think. And I encourage you to share that exercise with people. The 7 layers of why is what you call it. But it's the same as when I ask, "What do you want? What do you really want?" Okay, write that. But what else do you really want? Why are you doing that? The so that. You do that so that what? Right? And you keep peeling and peeling and peeling and peeling and peeling until you find the actual true cause and what it really is that you want. Right? Above everything else. And when you find that inner core thing, then you know you're doing it for you. And it has to be for you. I'm telling you, when you're doing it for everybody else, you will not find the inner joy. You can't find it because it's still not filled. It's just another milestone. But when you find that inner joy, you're like, "That's it. I'm on the right path." Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So sorry, that's a long exercise, but that. Right, wrap it up for us, lover.
That's good. We gave him some homework, like we're gonna do in most episodes, right? But I liked how we ended it off. At first, we talked about how we didn't even know what fulfillment was, and we were already full grown adults, right? But then you go through phases, and then you realize, yeah, this is my fulfillment. I have realized it, and this is what it is. I'm going to be laser focused to get my fulfillment. My gratitude is going to come from that as well. And then what else can I do to make my fulfillment come true? And if I have done enough, and is that going to continue to have a ripple down effect with other people? And that's what it's all about, right? For us.
Mhm.
And that's basically our formula for the happiness that we've been the most right now, right? Because we have helped so many people, and that gives us joy. That gives us inner peace to help other people, and for us to see them help others at the same
Mhm.
time. So I think this was a great episode. Probably
I
one of
hope
my
you guys
favorites.
enjoyed it.
One of my favorites. Hoa went all out. So no, and I encourage you to continue to join us. I know we've been having a very good viewership, but please keep on tuning in. We really appreciate all your support. And we're here Mondays at 11 a.m. Central Time. Any last words you want to say?
No, I thoroughly did enjoy this episode, and I just wanted to thank you and acknowledge you too, Lover.
Oh, thank you.
I am the person I am through these 19 years because you've really helped me. You believed in me. You've really helped me find my light. And when you find your light and you share that light with others, and we're on a mission together and the alignment, I couldn't ask for a better partner in life and everything. So
Well, thank you so much for saying that. You're like my teacher now, because all you say it so eloquently whenever you speak to other people. That's one of the things that I might not have. I have the passion just like you, but the way that you say it and you speak it in front of hundreds of people, I really enjoy that. And I'm so proud of you for sharing it. And I knew it. Whenever I saw it in you that specific day. I remember those words. And whenever you were up there speaking for the first time, I was like, no, she is I, I'm laser focused on you, right? Because you have that passion that you want to share. You have it all within you, and don't keep it for yourself, right? So, and that's what we kept on saying early on. But
Thank you, Lover. And I thank you, each and every one of you that have spent the time to watch this, to be part of our lives, that you've been part of our journey that fulfills our hearts. Know that we appreciate you. We're so grateful for you. And thank you for being part of the Live and Give family. But till next time, bye, everyone.
bye-bye.